My first semester doing TBL, I got a lot of resistance. And even my second semester, I've had some resistance at the beginning of the semester. And the resistance can take a number of different forms. One is that students can feel resentful because they think you're not teaching. And I had actually a lot of that, and fairly vehemently. Because students expect to come in, they actually, it's interesting, they don't expect to come in and do anything except write down what you say. And for some students, it turns out that that's a measure of how much they think they're learning. And so if they're actually coming in and talking to their teammates, or coming in and taking that readiness assessment test, first individually and then as a team, and then we talk about it, that doesn't seem to them like learning. And so they need a lot of feedback in terms of, well, you know, here's what you've done, and you weren't able to do that before, and to try to help them reconceive their own learning as stuff that they can do because they're not used to thinking of their own learning that way, which is interestingly parallels how I hadn't been thinking about teaching before this. Other students are upset about the team structure because they feel that it's going to be unfair, and they feel that the teams are going to bring their grades down, or that they're going to do all the work, or just in some way they are very suspicious of teams.
And it was also good, like if you didn't get stuck with a very good team, it wasn't that everything was your grade, like your individual grade, because it was balanced really well. So that was good, and it was good that we didn't have like complete projects with each other, and it was just kind of like in class. So if you had kind of like slackers in your team, which we didn't really, but if you did, it was fine, like it didn't bring you down, so that was good.
It's important, A, that the teams are structured so that people are accountable, both for preparation outside, but also to actually come and contribute to the teamwork, especially where that ends up being graded and factoring into their final grades. And it's hard to show that all at once right at the beginning of the semester. I think it's important to expect that resistance and to treat it as reasonable, because it is, and because it's precisely to avoid their reasonable worries that TBL has the structure that it does. I feel like now, after I've used TBL once successfully already, I have an easier time sort of reassuring students right at the beginning that, yeah, we're going to take care of those worries. I hear you, and here's how it works, and here's why it's not going to be unfair. The trajectory last semester, the first semester I did it, I asked for feedback in a formal, class-wide way 3 times. One was after the first RET, so maybe 3 weeks into the semester. One was an ITLAL administered formal midterm survey that happened maybe pretty much right around midterms, right in the middle of the semester, and then again at the end of the semester. So feedback was sort of actively solicited from students right at the beginning, partly because I was worried about this kind of resistance. The first time I asked them for feedback, it was completely open-ended. I handed out blank sheets of paper and asked them to just write whatever and drop it in a box on their way out. Lots of people wrote, and lots of people wrote, small words on both sides of the paper, and you got the feeling they would have kept going had I given out larger sheets. And I think I put those into piles, and I think a third were fine, everything's fine, things are good, to fine to happy. A third were largely fine, but I have these specific concerns or these specific problems. And a third were, what's the word? Completely disgruntled, to disgusted, to borderline appalled. Where one student wrote, she had counted the number of pages of lecture notes she had and told me. So she used this open blank piece of paper to write to me. I only have, I think it was 3 pages of lecture notes from this class, and I am shocked, borderline appalled at this number, right? It should have been more, And the fact that it wasn't more showed that I wasn't teaching. So I would say that particular comment was indicative of the tone of 1/3 of the comments at the beginning of the semester. So after that round of feedback, I talked to the class. I said, thanks for your feedback. I told them the division into thirds, you know, happy with, you know, a few concerns, unhappy. And I addressed some of the specific concerns. I did a little bit of talk about the multiple ways in which people learn, and how one of the rationales for TBL is that you incorporate more of them. We still do lectures. You still have some lecture notes, but we do other things as well. So I gave them feedback, and I think they sort of appreciated the opportunity to vent, and also the fact that I took class time to respond. But there had been significant buy-in by mid-semester. By the end of the semester, when I put in an open-ended question into the SERFs, the first open-ended question was something like, what was the best thing about this course? More than 2/3 freely responded that the teams were the best thing about the course. The trajectory that semester was pretty amazing, I think. I gave something close to 130 grades for the class, and out of a class that large, that's remarkably, for me, low level of attrition. Something won them over.